All right, welcome to the 5. That was President Trump in the Oval Office signing a memo on sending the National Guard and other federal resources to crack down on crime in Memphis. He also spoke about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He said the suspected killer was radicalized online. Officials say Tyler Robinson is not cooperating, but his family and friends are. FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Dan Bongino giving an update on the investigation.
We were able to gather a significant amount of forensic information, which we expedited back to the lab, which was the key, I think, piece of information that we were able to crack this thing open.
His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology. He claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
We can confirm that that his roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. He is cooperating with authorities as well.
You know, Kaylee, a big question becomes, as we were just chatting about a moment ago, when did he become deeply indoctrinated with this leftist ideology, and how did he become indoctrinated?
That's the key question. I mean, from what I read with CNN's reporting, he had a 4.0 GPA, he had a scholarship, he had a family that was close to him, and then something snapped, and we need to figure out exactly what that is. But I can tell you, as I've watched these images over the last few days, Erica Kirk, her beautiful and moving speech, and then learning about this killer, this assassin, it occurred to me, Charlie Kirk said once that there is a spiritual battle playing out all around us, and you can choose to acknowledge it, or you can choose to ignore it, but it is happening nevertheless. And you see that, what you're looking at now, this, supposed assassin, it's the face of evil. This is a guy who wrote a handwritten note that he was going to take Charlie Kirk out. He kills Charlie Kirk, a father, a husband, and then he goes on Discord and jokes about his doppelganger doing it. Who jokes after you've literally slaughtered a man? And that's the darkness. But then there's also a lot of light, and we get very caught up at the people celebrating this, and I'd like to believe they're the few voices, but there's a lot of light out there too. And I'll just end with this. There's several accounts I've seen, amazing accounts of young people. This guy, big athlete, says, I'm not an emotional guy, I don't cry. But when I watch Charlie Kirk's videos, every time he talks about God, I start to cry. Another young woman said for the first time she opened a Bible. Her in-laws had been encouraging her to do it. She never wanted to open it. And she read a scripture about the truth and the truth setting her free. These stories are huge. They are out there. There is a wave of young people in this country turning toward the light. Erica Kirk is picking up the mantle. She's carrying it forward, and that light will always beat the darkness you were just looking at.
Jesse, the FBI investigation, a lot has been made aware to the public as this is ongoing. But they've widened the probe now, as we heard through Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. They've widened this probe to some of these pro-trans groups, these online groups. And a big question, too, will become, did they know that he was going to be taking this action? Did they know in advance?
Right, so we all figured there was going to be a trans angle. So the guy was dating a trans man, whatever that means. And was this killing a romantic overture to impress this trans boyfriend? We don't know what was the motivation. But we do know that most of these trans shooters are lone wolf, mentally ill savages. This is not the case here. There might have been co-conspirators. There might have been people with foreknowledge of the attack. Did he have a cell, a little cadre of crazy people that knew this was going to happen and gave him aid and comfort? I think the investigation will show that. And this is where it's different, because a lot of these people are highly intelligent. They're highly motivated. They're well organized, and they're steeped in this progressive ideology. Luigi, Crooks, Ruth, this guy, the guy who shot Scalise, all smart people that were very, very specific about their intent, and they murdered someone in cold blood. You look at these people at these protests, they're torching cars. You look at the people at the riots, they're getting brick deliveries. They put bombs on Fox News trucks out west. These are people that are not flying off the handle. This is very well organized, and you want to say, okay, well, let's just come together. Well, how do you come together with someone like that? If they're hell-bent on murder, if they've chosen violence as a strategy to advance a political agenda. Charlie came together with him every time he went on campus, and they shot him dead in the neck. He tried to build bridges. He tried to have a dialogue, and they murdered him in cold blood. So that's where the left doesn't really understand what's been done, because if you're going to kill Charlie, you can kill anybody. This guy was not just a political activist. He was a spiritual leader of a movement. He talked about God, family, love, sovereignty, not just politics. So this was a spiritual attack, and people will be dealt with. There will be a reckoning. Not violence. We don't condone violence. We would never stoop to this level. But we will drive these people out firmly and resolutely. So this kind of stuff will not exist in the United States of America ever again.
Jessica, we're learning brand new details through the Washington Post this evening. The Washington Post is reporting through two people familiar with the Discord chat that we have started to learn some details of. They're reporting that the suspect in Charlie Kirk's shooting did post to Discord, "It was me," an outright confession for what he did, saying, quote, "I'm sorry for all of this."
And that he was going to be turning himself in a couple of hours, which we know to be the case. And I'm glad, Jesse, that you were clear that this was a nonviolent call to action that you're talking about. But there are a lot of people saying things like, we are at war, and war has a very particular violent connotation to it. And from what we know thus far, and it's an ongoing investigation that it seems deeply complicated, but everybody from the president to Governor Cox to FBI Director Patel all seem to agree that he was radicalized online and seems to be part of this kind of internet nihilist group of kids, right, who spend all their times in Discord chats that play video games. And that makes sense because of what we saw in the bullet casings, right? The furry meme, which is old, by the way. I was reading about it. It's over 10 years old. So, you know, he's grown up on this, been seeing it for a long time. The Helldivers 2, the game, then the Ciao Bella, which has been used by both the left and the right, this anti-fascist call to action. If there is evidence that he was a leftist, and Cash talked this morning about this note that doesn't exist anymore, but through our aggressive interview posture, we know exactly what it said. They're going to have to do better than that for people to take it from the president and people who are supporting him in this, that this is a they problem, that the left came out and they took out Charlie Kirk. Now, it may absolutely be the case, but we know that Tyler Robinson was raised in a close-knit conservative family. We know it was a big gun culture family. The grandma said something like, we don't even know any liberals. It wasn't school indoctrination. Carrie Lake went off on that. He was in an online apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, which I don't think was changed.
I would just note the family
but
said
they didn't say
changed.
when he changed.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we need more information before you
Charlie
smear.
Kirk at a dinner
before
we don't need more information.
Really?
Yes, we don't need it. What is interesting here is, why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know.
What about
There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your. What about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality, so you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm, we are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans, and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult, and you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable. How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear, and I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
but
since
the two
then,
sides argument, well, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint with this. And this kid
Let's
does
have a conversation.
No.
Charlie had a conversation. He got shot. Look, I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't here for a week. You came in here and it's cold. And I'm sorry, but this is a story that is immune to news cycles. It's immune to rationalizations. It's immune to bias. This thing is with us for good. And we all have to deal with that. So that means we can't live by the same arguments that you might be reading about relativism among the media. We can't deal with those stories. It doesn't matter. The media is dead to us on the story. They built this thing up. We're dealing with it. We're going to act. We don't care what the whataboutism is anymore. That shit's dead. Sorry. For the swearing as well. I apologize to the American public. I'm going to shut up for the rest of the show.
We appreciate
Sorry,
your
Jessica.
thoughts, Greg. Millions are mourning the loss of Charlie Kirk, but unfortunately some on the left are celebrating his murder. There is this sick individual trampling on the flowers and flags at a Charlie Kirk memorial yesterday, just outside Turning Point USA headquarters in Phoenix. Some mourners tackled him, and he was arrested shortly after. And the hate has spread overseas. UK punk rappers Bob Vylan made this disgusting remark during a concert in Amsterdam. I feel we have no words, Kaylee.
I have no words for that. I have no words for what we see on these campuses where the friends of mine go out onto these campuses and speak, like Kristen Hawkins and Riley Gaines, and they see spray painted, kill all Charlie Kirks. And then you look at the poll that we've put up over and over again on this channel about is political violence never acceptable? And baby boomers largely agree, never acceptable. And my millennials, about 78% of us. And you get to Gen Z, 58%. There you go. 58% say political violence is never acceptable. That's a scary place in this country. But what worries me almost even more than that is when our leaders, maybe they're a little more softly spoken, maybe they're a little smoother, maybe their words are a little more eloquent, but it gives permission to this kind of thinking. When, I'm sorry, but the former president, President Biden, stands up and says, MAGA is a clear and present danger. That's what he said in that speech in front of that red background. A threat to the very foundation of our republic. I believe he was quoting a judge on that one. So a judge says that. The list goes on. Garbage, the comment that was made that MAGA is garbage. This is half of the country. And when you start making analogies to Hitler, and when you start drawing these comparisons, threat to democracy, how many times do we say that? Existential threat. It gives a permission structure to those below, to younger children, to behave in the manner that they've behaved. Even if you're doing it unwittingly, it gives permission, and that is entirely unacceptable.
I mean, it seems they're everywhere. I mean, it's brought these people out of wherever they've been. I mean, it's pilots, it's school teachers, it's professors at college universities. Jesse.
Yeah, these aren't fringe people. These are people that are teaching your children celebrating Charlie Kirk being assassinated. These are neurologists. These are people who work at Fortune 500 companies. and they're sounding like the devil himself. And so these people, we don't have to tolerate. We can forgive, but they have to get on their knees and they have to beg for forgiveness. They have to repent their political sins. Only then will we allow them back into polite society. Until then, we will be seeking them out and exposing them with sunlight. We will disinfect them with sunlight. Everything they say or do will be exposed, and then everybody will know who they are. And they will not be allowed to be with us, live with us, be in our companies, be in our social groups. No, I'm not living with people who celebrate assassinations. This isn't like a freedom of speech thing where like, oh yeah, I disagree on the border. This is like my guy just got shot in the neck and you guys are cheering. You're going to a vigil and you're dancing on the guy's grave. You don't deserve to be able to say that and then have no penalty. There will be costs. There'll be social costs, financial costs. We will shame, excommunicate them, banish them. And that is a promise. And until then, game on.
Greg?
Well, first, I didn't mean to scream at you, Jessica. It's just that this is a very personal thing, and it's a personal and it's a connective thing. I mean, we all feel this, and it's just not a normal story. And you haven't been here for a week. You came in, and I think you might have said things that I'd already heard. But this guy only expresses his opinion in a safe space. It's never a two-way thing. It's only on stage and he's shouting. And he's also a big pussy because then he recanted what he said. He claimed he didn't say it, but he did. He's a cosplaying punk. He's not even a punk. He's a joke.
All right, one more thing is up next.